Hi, and thanks for joining us here at Rose Quartz Mediumship podcast, where we simply adore anything and everything healing and metaphysically based. I want to start with a warning that in this podcast, I am going to talk about sex. And while the lesson is not around sex, there is conversation around sex in this podcast. And so I just want to put that out there as a warning so that if that is not something that you want to hear, that you're able to skip past this podcast. I have been doing a ton of expansion work around emotional freedom. Actually, all forms of freedom. It is one of the two words that I worked with and have been working with and will continue to work with in 2024. And so I've been doing a lot of work around emotional freedom. And if you've worked with me in any capacity, you know that I have a belief system that in order for us to experience more joy, we have to be able to hold unsettled energy or sadness. And that balance, if we're able to hold the sadness, it will deepen the depth of where we can go from a joy standpoint. Right? So there's a counterbalancing that happens. And I believe wholeheartedly when the universe says, oh, you can hold this amount of rejection, we will also then give you this amount of acceptance, right? So it's a counterbalance. And so what that means is the deeper I'm willing to go into any shadow work that I have to do, the deeper I'm able to experience joy and peace and ease and freedom. And so that is some of the expansion work that I've been doing in 2024. And I've seen huge results, huge. I have been working really hard to break the anxiety pattern that my nervous system has run for the majority of my life. And that work has been absolutely breathtaking in the shift that it has created internally inside of me. My ability to tolerate, and the key word there is tolerate, more ease, more peace, more pleasure, more joy, more abundance. And so that emotional freedom and financial freedom and freedom of time for me come through the work of doing the shadow work around whatever the blocks are that prevent me from tolerating that level of ease or peace or pleasure. And I'm going to give you an example so that you can wrap your mind around this if this is a new concept for you. If I want more ease in my life and more financial abundance, more financial freedom in my life, I need to be with the part of me that thinks that I'm unworthy of that ease. The part of me that says that that amount of financial freedom, that amount of ease is not okay for me. And those stories are rooted in childhood. And even if you had a phenomenal childhood, you were taught things. There were belief systems that were put on you rather than coming from within you. And so I was raised on a farm, and it was a really, really beautiful way to be raised. But there was not ease. Everybody in our family worked incredibly hard, long hours, 6 to 7 days a week. We would have a pizza party or a barbecue after we'd gotten out of the hayfield at 7 or 8 o'clock at night. So that was a truth that was ingrained in me from the time that I was a small child. And it wasn't a malicious truth, but it also isn't a truth that I want to continue to carry, that I need to work 6 or 7 days a week and that I need to work from the butt-ass crack of dawn until night. That's not how I want to move through this human experience. And while I loved the way that I was raised, it was perfect for me, that is something I want to unlearn. And so that's just a simple example, right? If I want to be able to hold more financial abundance and freedom and ease of time and schedule, freedom of time, I need to be with the truth of what my nervous system is holding and what my mind is holding, that says the good and right way to live is to work from morning until night. It was what my grandparents embodied. It was what my parents embodied. And it's not something that I want to continue to embody. So that's just a really simple example, right? If I want to be able to hold this in my nervous system, I need to be able to be with the shadow work that says that I can't have that. And so that's when I say that I'm doing expansion work, that's part of the work that I'm doing, right? And there's a lot that goes into that. If you work with me in any of the group programs, or if you work with me in a one-on-one setting, then you know that that shadow work and expansion work is something that we practice. So I've been really practicing holding more pleasure in my nervous system, in my body, in my mind. And the other night, I was having sex with my husband. And we have always had very emotionally connecty sex. It's just part of our co-creation and connection. And so there's always been a really significant emotional component to all physical intimacy. And so I just want to preface that, because what I'm going to say is going to sound a little bit funny. I have always experienced orgasms as a kind of full body experience, as well as an emotional or a heart experience, right? But I would say about 70% of the pleasure has been in my physical body, and about 30% has been in my heart or my emotional body. And the other night, we were being physically intimate, and when I orgasmed, the magnitude of the physical experience did not change. That remained the same. So the intensity of the physical orgasm was the same. But the intensity of the emotional orgasm was through the roof. It was like nothing I'd ever experienced before. And I consider myself somebody who's pretty in touch with my emotions and my feelings. And it took my breath away. It took my breath away. It was like it had been flip-flopped, right? So 70% of the experience was an emotional or heart-centered experience. It was like an orgasm in my heart. And 30% was physical. So the intensity of the emotional component of the orgasm was like double the physical. But the physical never changed from, the night before. So that absolutely blew my mind. It was like nothing I'd ever experienced to have an orgasm in my heart, in my emotional body. It opened up all sorts of things inside of me. And after I was sitting in silence, doing some meditation and some work around, how did that happen? What was that? And I got this really beautiful clarity that the reason that I was able to experience that depth of emotional pleasure was because I had been willing to be with that depth of emotional shadow work. And it was a really profound experience for me. I know without any doubt that if I want more patience, I actually get to practice holding more patience, right? I don't just get patience. And so I was able to be with and hold the shadow work, which gave me access to an entirely different level of pleasure and emotion and joy and connection. And the experience was profound enough that it was really clear to my husband that something was very different. And so we had a lot of dialogue. And as I said, I spent some time in meditation, in silence, being with the experience and allowing it to kind of marinate inside of me. And I guess what I want to say is that I want that for you. I want that for everyone. We are only here having this human experience one time. It's not a dress rehearsal, right? This is it. You get this human experience one time. And I want that for you. I didn't even know it was possible to feel the way that I felt that night. And I want that for everyone who wants it. Anybody who wants it. Or for anybody who doesn't even know it's possible. And so I just wanted to share this story in the event that there's a piece there that resonates for you. Or that it might open up something in your mindset or the way that you look at shadow work and nervous system regulation and anxiety patterning of your nervous system and being able to hold more pleasure and more joy and more ease in your life. When I made the choice to work with the word freedom in 2024, it felt so true in my body and in my heart and in my mind and in my spirit. And I'm so glad that I did. Emotional freedom is something that I want everybody to experience on the deepest level that they are capable of tolerating. And I want that for myself. And I'm going to continue to do the expansion work and the shadow work around it because it was amazing. Amazing. So, I will leave this podcast saying that I hope that you get an emotional orgasm with a massive amount of intensity. I hope you have a beautiful morning, day, evening, or night, wherever it is that this podcast finds you.